Okay, so I'm going to get started. Welcome to our 2021 Earth Week event, Harmony with Nature and Sustainability. My name is Lindsey Kayman, and I'll be your host this afternoon. Greetings, everyone. So the event is being recorded. There'll be a Q&A at the end, and please type your questions into the chat box. Rohit Gangwani from EEF and Janet Winter from John Jay College will be helping me. So I hope that you had a chance to watch and enjoy the film, The Condor and the Eagle, and to donate according to your means. We're grateful for all contributions. And I'd also like to thank our co-hosts. So is Casey Camp here? Is she on the call? Because if she is, please unmute yourself. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you the focus of the panel discussion today. It's on Rohit, how colleges can change and other institutions can partner with Indigenous tribes to help them further their goals, and how sustainability programs, especially at colleges, can promote a less human-centric vision of sustainability. And so Casey Camp is supposed to speak now, but I'm not sure what's happening with her since she doesn't seem to be here. So I'll just progress on. Casey is a tribal councilwoman of the Ponca tribe, and she's been a leader in their movement. And I was told that she wouldn't be able to stay for the Q&A, but I assume she'll be joining us soon. So let me explain how our participation in the film's impact campaign and the panel discussion came about. Go ahead. I am the Environmental Health and Safety Director and Sustainability Council Chair at John Jay College, which is one of the 25 City University of New York CUNY colleges. John Jay has a major focus on justice. Its catchphrase is fierce advocates for justice. Since I started there in 2012, it's expanded its focus to include environmental justice, and its most recent strategic plan builds on this with participation in a sustainability rating system called STARS. And they're expanding the number of classes on environmental justice. I'm also the president of Environmental Education Fund, EEF, a nonprofit that mentors people and college groups to become active and involved in protecting nature within their sphere of influence and according to their interests. We encourage the screening of impactful environmental films with discussions that often lead to actions. So this panel came together because I became really inspired over the past year putting together the sustainability assessment for John Jay College. It's a program of the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education called STARS, Sustainability Tracking, Assessment, and Rating System. When I saw the Condor and the Eagle, it occurred to me that STARS could help Indigenous peoples around the world. STARS is the gold standard used by colleges regarding best practices in sustainability. It allows colleges to get good ideas from other institutions. It promotes setting goals and benchmarking progress, and allows them to earn recognition, which also gives them a competitive edge. So they could earn a rating of bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. And I think John Jay will get the rating of silver for our first report. So you can see which colleges are participating, and then see all the details of their programs by clicking on the credits posted to the left. And Rohit is scrolling through these. So you can see these are credits. Each one has a certain number of points. Hold on a second, I see there's people in the waiting room. So each one has a certain number of points. And the one I just want to start out focusing on is the one called EM10, which stands for Engagement 10, which encourages college community partnerships to promote sustainability. And to get the most points, the partnerships should have the following characteristics that are listed. They should provide financial or material support to the community partner. It should be a multi-year or ongoing partnership. It should be sustainability focused, and I'll explain that in a minute. And the community partner must be an equal partner and include underrepresented groups or vulnerable populations in the planning, decision-making, implementation, and review of whatever the projects are being implemented. So you might be wondering what's meant by sustainability. Next slide. The focus of STARS and sustainability programs in general are to help promote and realize the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which cover social justice, sustainable development, and ecological health. And these were created in 2015, and the goals are really for 2030. And so these college community partnerships could be beneficial to Indigenous groups. So I invited Chief Vincent Mann of the Ramapough Lanape Turtle Clan to tell us about the Turtle Clan and to discuss how they are partnering with colleges and what kind of other additional partnerships might be helpful to them. So let's hear from Chief Mann now.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. Lindsey, Casey is in the
Okay.
participants. So
Is she, Casey, are you here? Oh, I see Casey. Okay.
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Actually, I know you're in a hurry. So do you want to give your presentation before Chief Mann? Sorry about that.
No, I would much rather hear the chief speak first, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thanks so much. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So Chief Mann, why don't you?
I can.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, and great.
That we bear by remaining in our homelands and being described as anything other than who and what we are. And so because of this, it has led me to partner with universities such as NYU Environmental Medicine, with Dr. Zelikoff, with Ramapough College, with Dr. Chuck Stead and Professor Elderstein, who is known around the world. It has led me to Rutgers in New Brunswick, with Dr. Anita Bakshi from the Landscape Architectural Design. We actually have a book that we published called Our Lands, Our Stories. Very graphic in terms of, there's a lot of pictures that show what contamination does to humans and plants and all of our relatives, as well as working with Dr. Jack Chen, who is the co-founder of the Chinese American Museum in New York City, at Rutgers Newark, at the Price Institute. And so what we've realized here in the Turtle Clan is that because the town is responsible, because the state is responsible, that we do not get the attention or the needs met of environmental justice community, which is just really compounds those issues, for us Native people. And so we've gone to the universities and have partnered with them to do environmental studies, some scientific research and work. And all of those things have really brought a light to this situation. And what we're aiming for while trying to heal and cure our land and our people is that we come up with a system to address all the other Superfund sites that are near our relatives, no matter where they are, out west, in Canada. And we as Muncie speaking people believe that that's our inherent responsibility. We do have a project that we're trying to get off the ground, but we use that framework. We work with Ramapough College where the students are involved, and we that is called Ramapough Guardians, Ramapough Mountain Guardians, and it takes on all the challenges that we face, whether it's pipelines, whether it is our ceremonial stone landscape, trying to protect those ancient, beings, and which is really important as part of the work that we do, because those are our ancestors' prayers that have been laid down, thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. So that is new work that we're doing, and we're taking that challenge on with Rutgers Newark and Jack Chen, with the involvement of our two sister Muncie communities in Canada. The other thing that has happened is that it's led us to create this farm that I'm actually at right now. And this is the Muncie Three Sisters Medicinal Farm. We believe that all food is medicinal. We'll be growing things this year. We have about 26,000 plants that are started at this moment. And those plants have been chosen for their high medicinal value. So if you have to eat broccoli, you should eat purple broccoli, right? If you're going to eat cabbage, you should eat purple or red cabbage. And so we're, like same thing with the carrots, purple carrots. And so this really has become a food sovereignty stand. We will also be selling to, the public who can afford it. And we'll also be working with other organizations who help the other unfortunate human beings with food justice and, getting our food to them as well. So that is who we are. We struggle every day. We welcome any university to step up, be responsible for the land and the people who descend here in this time from our ancestors. One of the things that I found amazing in your opening here, Lindsey, is that John Jay College, if they're as proud as it seems like they are for standing up for environmental justices and holding those people accountable, by all means, I will meet with anybody to have that conversation in depth. And so at this time, I'd like to, finish with just saying how much of an honor it is for me. And at this time, I'd like to hear from Auntie Casey. Anishi, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. And we're also looking forward to hearing from Casey. And I'll just keep questions for the Q&A.
Latia, Juzi Witike, Mashte Ponca, Oklahoma. Wahe Tamajikte Atinike Ganke Giza Te Ati Wibaha E. Juzi is my Ponca name. I'm in the occupied territory of Oklahoma, where our Lenape relatives were also removed to some years back. There's 39 federally recognized tribes here. I live in the occupied territory of the Wichita peoples who were here long before we were, until our forced removal in 1877. I told you that I've been looking forward to this moment, and I'm grateful to be here, and thank you for allowing me to be here. Chief Mann, your words are powerful. I honor your leadership, and I'm grateful to be called your aunt. Dimi. Dimi is the word for aunt in our language. So, Dimi Wiwita, you could call me that. I have taken some notes here and been trying to think how to assimilate the words to put to you. If you've seen the Condor and the Eagle, you've also seen the devastation of where our people live as well, where the Ponca live as well. Our original territory is Nebraska or Nebraska and South Dakota. We were disenfranchised by a quote and unquote mistake that the federal government made. And there's no mistakes that they made. The Bureau of Indian Affairs was incepted under the War Department, and they've continued to act from that position from 500 years ago when they first became guests in Lenape territory and in the territory of the tribes that they wiped out. We have been diminished from over 500 million to just over 1 million now that we're building back to across Turtle Island or North America. We have been systematically dispossessed of our land base, of what they call resources and we call sources of life. But yet at this time, when we are the frontline communities on the fight against fossil fuel and what they're doing to our peoples and the sacredness of all living things, people have turned again to the indigenous wisdom to show a way forward because we remember. We have the cellular understandings and relationship with our mother, the earth, with our father, the sky, with the sacred waters, and with all living beings. And we haven't forgotten. And so at times like this, when it used to be just professors, so wait, I got to tell you my joke first. So I was on a panel one time and I was with all of you guys that have all the initials after your names, right? You know, your PhDs, your da, right? And so I introduced myself as a graduate of MIT, and that's matriarch in training.
That's great.
Yeah, because I am that. I come from a line of matriarchs. That's how I became the Drumkeeper for the Women's Society, the only existing women's society, as that was passed down through my mothers and grandmothers, through all of the rapes and the murders and the abuse that they endured in boarding schools and forced removals, now in man camps. We survived. The men in my family were descendants of the last war chief of the Ponca, who my son is named for. There's thunder where he walks. My brothers were all part of the Wounded Knee Resistance. My sons were in leadership positions in Standing Rock. And our people have continued to understand that the relationship that we have with the earth, with the land, with the waters, and all of those relatives we mentioned, are part of the understanding of what is going to carry us out of this crisis that you all call climate change. We were told by our spiritual leaders that there would become a time of purification, where our Mother Earth would purify herself. And she's doing so with the melting of the polar ice caps, has become this wild movement of the jet streams that is causing weather to become unpredictable, larger tornadoes, more hurricanes, wildfires, and droughts. The sacred beaver are beginning to dam up certain areas in order to purify them. All of these things have been predicted. And at that time, they told us, at the meeting of the Condor and the Eagle, at the time of purification, the Red Nations would be the ones to rise up and teach how to live in harmony with all that is again. And we've partnered all around the world with the indigenous peoples, you know, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's difficult to help people to understand that the commodification of the sacred is not acceptable. You can't do carbon trading and pretend that the wind doesn't blow the pollution from where it's killing our people in a form of environmental genocide after the genocidal processes have already been put on our backs, after 5 treaties with the Ponca people, after more treaties with other nations. And those are a federal government to government relationship that have been abrogated every single time. And when those, we now use the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People to help hold up some of the remaining sovereignty that we have. But we are also beginning to understand that if you have laws that are man-made laws, and you have failed in your trust responsibility in 100% of the ways that you promised that you would upkeep them, then we will begin to do laws within our territories that not only protect us as a people and all living things as a result of that, but also you, our neighbors. And within the Ponca tradition and caring for all, not just ourselves, not for the individual, I'm sure our chief here would much rather be at home, kicking back and growing his own little garden, but he's thinking in a broader scope because that's the way we were taught. We live for all of our relations. We live for the generations to come. And there is a certain point that we are asking for our neighbors to pay attention to what we're doing by creating statutes and laws within our sovereign territory. And it doesn't even matter if we're in our territory, we're still going to do this. It might be in the cities that we live in, because you all have come onto our shores and invited yourselves to the territory that we have inhabited. And we've welcomed you and continue to do so. We'll show you how to grow the food. We'll tell you that carbon trading is a false solution and carbon zero is a joke. We'll tell you that this water is sacred and without her, we all die. And we'll tell you that there are ways forward that we can align natural law with human law. One of those ways that we're choosing within the Ponca territory is to recognize the rights of nature. If you all were sitting back during the time of COVID, maybe you looked out your window and you saw the birds. Maybe you watched the wind blow, maybe the water was flowing, maybe the rain was happening. All of those things were living within the natural structure that was set up by the great mystery. Only man has broken the law and strayed wildly from the natural law that has always been in place. And in doing so, he has endangered his species. You and I, us humans, if we don't get ourselves back into alignment with the natural laws, then we could put ourselves in the same place as the lemmings and continue to race towards that cliff and jump off and not be here because the earth won't miss us. She is our mother and we respect her and we love her and she nurtures and cares for us and all living things in the best way possible. But if she has to choose between one species and millions of other species, she might have to let us go so that those millions of other species can continue in a harmonic way. And so we have things that we've put into place called, one is a statute called the Rights of Nature, saying that all other things have lived within the natural laws and we need to protect them. We, this week, will be recognizing the rights of the rivers with the guardianship of women, the Women's Society, to bring into court if necessary in a point of good standing to represent the river as she is polluted by the fossil fuel people. That has happened with the Wanganui River in New Zealand. It's happened with the Snake River on the Nez Perce territory. The people around Lake Erie, hundreds of thousands, were trying to recognize the rights of Lake Erie. And by creating these policies, these laws, and by pushing those in the governmental place that are call themselves decision makers, we're capable of realigning the laws that need to happen. And so rights of nature has a place within municipalities. It has a place within your personal territory. It has a place within the global aspect of humanity. There is a organization called the Global Alliance on the Rights of Nature. And we're in the process of creating an Indigenous council there from all of the Indigenous people around the world to see how in our various territories we might be able to lift this recognition up. It's not giving nature rights. It is simply recognizing that we as human beings are not protecting nature. We are nature protecting itself. Internalize that. Internalize that concept. We are nature in the process of protecting itself. And I could go on for a bit, but that's how us matriarchs are. I thank you for your time and your attention, your caring for the generations to come. From the bottom of my heart, Sha.
Thank you so much, Casey and Chief Mann. And I personally commit myself that I will try to amplify your message on college campuses and anywhere within my sphere of influence. I really honor what you're doing and what you're saying, and I would help out in any way that I can. Thank you so much. So next, let me see, I went out of order here a little bit. We're going to have Craig Kauffman really introduce the rights of nature in more detail, and Erica Krauper talk about some initiatives that she's doing at Drew University. So I just want to make the point that universities are fantastic places to see the movement. And this program that I've been using for sustainability, AC Stars, rewards institutions that implement new and innovative programs. And some of them become incorporated into stars. For example, colleges started doing training sessions for employees about being sensitive to the LGBTQ+ communities. And it really made a big difference and became incorporated into stars, AC Stars. And then colleges throughout the country did this program, and you could see that it's had made a big difference in our culture, and it could be do the same thing with other programs. So my hope is that some nature-centric credits will be incorporated into stars, as well as specific credits supporting Indigenous communities and nature defenders. So Craig Kauffman will provide a brief introduction about the rights of nature for you now. So Craig is an associate professor of political science and environmental studies at Oregon University, and he's also a member of the UN group called Harmony with Nature. And this group works to have the rights of nature incorporated into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So take it away, Craig.
Okay, can you all see the slide now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so I first want to say I'm really honored to be here and quite humbled actually to have to follow Chief Mann and Casey Camp-Horinek. So as Lindsey said, she's asked me to give a really general overview of rights of nature. So I wanted to start by noting that rights of nature actually refers to two different things. When in practice, when people talk about rights of nature, they're talking about two different things. The first is a global philosophy. Sorry, I gotta just get my, there we go. The first is a legal philosophy which is often referred to as earth jurisprudence or earth law. And the second is a growing number of legal provisions that codify this philosophy by recognizing ecosystems as legal subjects with rights. And there are now at least 180 such rights of nature laws in 18 countries around the world, and more are being adopted all the time. So it's really a fast-growing global phenomenon. So first, let me talk a little bit about what Earth law is. So Earth law argues that ecosystems have the right to exist. Sorry, let me back up. I'm having some technological problems seeing the PowerPoint. Are you actually seeing the?
Yes, what is
PowerPoint?
Earth law?
Okay, sorry about that. So as you can see, so Earth law is an emerging body of law that focuses on protecting, restoring, and stabilizing the functional interdependency of Earth's life and life support systems. But it differs from conventional Western law in several important ways, right? So first, Western law generally is rooted in this idea that humans are separate and apart from nature. And it views nature as individual stocks of resources, which are legally treated as property that exists for human use, specifically to spur development, which is defined as exponential growth and consumption of these, quote, resources. And so then environmental laws rooted in this legal paradigm, like the Clean Water Act and the Endangered Species Act, they actually legalize environmental harms by regulating but permitting extreme levels of pollution and other forms of ecosystem destruction. I think this was shown really well in the movie. By contrast, Earth law recognizes that humans are actually part of nature, and consequently, human well-being is dependent on the well-being of ecosystems that provide the conditions for life. And this is because nature is comprised of nested living ecosystems whose parts are all interconnected through reciprocal relationships. So all elements of nature, including humans, are more accurately understood as members of what ecological scientists call biotic communities, rather than individual stocks of resources. And rather than exponential growth and consumption, Earth law prioritizes achieving and maintaining balance and a dynamic equilibrium within this healthy ecosystems, encapsulated by the catchphrase, living in harmony with nature. So this requires preventing extreme environmental harms that threaten ecosystems' ability to exist and thrive. So to this end, Earth law argues that ecosystems have the right to exist, thrive, and evolve, and that nature should be able to defend its rights in court, just like people can. And this is where rights of nature laws come in. So the issue is that in conventional Western legal systems, like we have in the United States, everything is legally categorized as either a legal person, which has rights, or as property, which has no rights, meaning its interests cannot be considered under the law. And conventional law regularly treats things that are not actually people as if they were people legally. This includes corporations, municipal governments, and even ships. However, conventional law, ironically, treats all aspects of nature, including living things like animals, ecosystems, and so forth, as property. So consequently, conventional law protects nature only for the benefit of people and corporations. So profit naturally usually takes priority over nature, leading to extreme degradation. So rights of nature laws correct this flaw within the legal system by recognizing ecosystems and other elements of nature as having fundamental rights, like the right to exist, to maintain the functioning of their natural cycles, to naturally evolve, and to be restored when damaged. So again, the goal is to restore nature to health and maintain balance within the systems that produce the conditions necessary for life. And I think it's important to clarify that nature's rights are consistent with human rights because humans are part of nature, not separate from it, as we've been saying. And I'll provide an example of this in a moment. So rights of nature laws, though, also give nature a voice in human decision-making bodies, like courts, regulatory agencies, and the like, by creating guardian bodies that are tasked with representing nature and protecting its rights. So importantly, rights of nature gives ecosystems legal standing to have their rights defended in court. And to get a sense of why this is important, and also how rights of nature and human rights are often connected, imagine you live in Pennsylvania or somewhere else, and a fracking company gets a permit to inject fracking wastewater into underground wells that contaminate your only drinking water supply. Now, you might assume reasonably that surely you and your fellow citizens have the right to prevent this from happening, but you would be wrong. Existing law privileges corporate property rights, which includes their right to damage or destroy their property. and does not recognize community rights to protect their ecosystems. And moreover, unless you can show that you were personally harmed or by this activity, you have no standing to sue the company to try to stop them. And even if you or a family member did get sick, the existing law makes it extremely difficult to prove that your illness was directly caused by the company's injection of toxic chemicals into the water system. The company can argue that the illness could have been caused by something else, and this is usually sufficient to avoid liability. However, if the local community adopts an ordinance recognizing the watershed as a legal person with rights, and then authorizes community members to speak on behalf of the watershed in court, it's scientifically much easier to show the direct causal chain by which the injection of toxic chemicals damages the ecosystem's ability to function, violating its rights, making it easier to establish standing in court. And so this provides a tool, a legal tool for communities to defend not only themselves, but also the ecosystems on which they depend. And so more than 70 municipalities in the US have adopted rights of nature ordinances for this reason. But I also want to note that rights of nature laws can be used to support rights of nature more proactively by considering them upfront in decision-making processes. And this is the idea behind incorporating rights of nature into the ASHI STARS system. Now, a similar effort is underway to incorporate rights of nature, or Earth law more generally, into the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is coordinated by the UN Harmony with Nature program, which was created within the Division for Sustainable Development to provide a forum for thinking about how Earth law could be incorporated into the Sustainable Development Agenda and to advocate for this. And you can find out more information about this program at the link below at harmonywithnatureun.org. So I just want to end by talking a little bit about how rights of nature changes the way we might think about sustainable development. Right, the current sustainable development model highlights the importance of these three spheres, nature, people, and the economy. And it presents them as distinct spheres that can operate independently, represented by this Venn diagram, with sustainability marked by the tiny area in the middle where the three spheres overlap. Right? But in reality, the only circle that can operate independently is nature, as the other spheres are dependent on nature for their existence. Right, human societies can't exist without nature providing the conditions for life. And economic systems are social constructions that can't exist without functioning societies. So consequently, a more accurate portrayal of the relationship between nature, people, and the economy is one of nested systems within the natural hierarchy. Right? Economic systems are embedded within and dependent on functioning social systems. And both of these are embedded within and dependent on functioning natural ecosystems. So this suggests a natural hierarchy of rights that should guide decision-making about how to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. And I want to emphasize these rights should not be seen as equal competing rights, but rather rights that operate in synergy with one another. Treating them as competing rights undermines the well-being and the integrity of the whole system, which is arguably the source of our current crises. So just to conclude, I want to show you a graph that was created, or a diagram created by Mumta Ito of the organization Nature's Rights. She sorted the existing sustainable development goals into their respective spheres, and then creates a framework for how we should prioritize the various sustainable development goals, given the reality of planetary boundaries and the reality that economic well-being is dependent on social well-being, which in turn is dependent on the health and well-being of natural ecosystems. So I'm quite sure I'm probably out of my time at this point, so I'll stop there, and happy to talk about any of this in the Q&A period.
Thank you so much, Craig. It's an honor to have you on the panel. And I just want to mention that everybody should look up so that they understand what the planetary boundaries are. It's really an important concept. So I'd like to hear now from Erica Cowper, who's an officer in her college's environmental club. She's working on helping them broaden their sustainability goals. And I first heard her speak at a Sierra Club panel discussion and invited her to join us at Environmental Education Fund as an intern, and you'll understand why when you hear her speak. So Erica.
Thank you for the introduction, Lindsay. I'm just gonna share my screen. All right. And everyone can see the presentation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to tell you about the environmental petition we wrote to my university and why these changes are important. But first, I wanted to give a quick introduction. My name is Erica Cowper, and I'm a junior at Drew University, where I major in biology and minor in Italian and environmental studies and sustainability. As a student at Drew University in New Jersey, I'm proud to be a part of a community that calls our campus the Forest. In the Forest, we prioritize recognizing, preserving, and restoring ecological integrity to the fertile forest ecosystems, ponds, and glacial features surrounding our campus. Being in nature in this beautiful place, as you can see on the right here, imparts a feeling of peace and harmony during a difficult time in history. I agree with Lindsay that universities are amazing places to start a movement. I'm also passionate about preserving a living planet for future generations of people and all life. For this reason, a large group of students at Drew, myself included, have brought together several ideas into a petition that we believe will make Drew stand out as an environmental leader, entice students to enroll, and allow the entire Drew community to have even more to celebrate. There are 3 parts to this petition. Part 1 of our petition is to redefine the language that Drew University uses regarding sustainability and the environment. Currently, Drew's sustainability webpage uses the traditional definition of sustainability. This reads, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. However, this human-centric definition does not include wildlife or ecosystems, and it does not recognize nature's intrinsic value or worth beyond its usefulness to humans. Climate change, ecosystem collapse, and accelerating species extinction have all been drastically intensifying. These are just a few headlines I pulled from the past month. They read, climate change threatens survival of endemic species the most. Scientists grappling with persistent and alarming collapse of North Coast bull kelp forests. Smaller amphibians have increased extinction risk due to fewer offspring. And there are so many more of these headlines and so many more of things happening around the world exactly like this. A cultural shift is needed. We advocate for a more expansive sustainability definition that includes Earth's ecosystems. For example, the revised definition we came up with is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations of humans and global ecosystems to thrive. During the Q&A, I'd be interested to hear if you have any suggestions for possible redefinitions or any other thoughts that you might have. This proposed definition of sustainability is how we can begin to handle and think about the current climate and biodiversity emergency properly. I'm working with Lindsay on a website where college environmental clubs and other groups can sign on to support a statement that sustainability should be redefined to include nature now and in the future. The URL for this website is on the slide. It's redefinesustainability.org. On this website, like I said, you could sign on to support this movement, and you could also submit other suggested redefinitions for sustainability that you come up with. If you would like to help out at all with this website, you can contact me at ecowper@drew.edu. And the hashtag that we've been using for this movement is #RedefineSustainability. Now moving on to part 2 of our petition. So part 2 of our petition is to implement an environmental literacy seminar with a focus on preserving a living planet. This will be an open place to help us get past our eco-anxieties and become active in protecting nature. We believe that being environmentally literate is critical for enabling students to advocate for the environment, to educate others, and to help us make informed decisions in our lives. Our generation can be a powerful agent to promote viable solutions that factor in climate change, the sixth mass extinction, and any other sustainability challenges for our country and our world. We believe that a university-wide environmental literacy seminar is essential for every university in the world. These seminars should include discussions about the environment and should be facilitated by trained mental health counselors who can help us move beyond eco-anxiety to become active and participating citizens. And now on to the third part of the petition. So part 3 of our petition asks the university to respectfully acknowledge the Womens Scalp Lanape on the Drew University website and in meetings and email communications. This is a powerful way of showing respect for and honoring the Indigenous peoples of the land on which Drew is located. Acknowledgements are a simple way of resisting the erasure of Indigenous histories and working towards honoring and inviting the truth. They can serve to remind us of an alternative way to view nature as kin instead of as natural resources. At this point in time, the petition has been signed by 90 students and faculty and has been received by the administration. We are in the works of creating an action plan for these changes, and we have offered our assistance to enact them. This petition can be a blueprint for universities everywhere. 15 years ago, no college even mentioned sustainability in their marketing, but today it would be unthinkable for most schools not to have this as a highlighted feature of their campus. These ideas can spread like a wildfire. I think the actions here at my university can be replicated throughout the country and throughout the world. Student leaders from various departments, along with faculty and administration, can work together to raise awareness, counter false information, and discuss recent environmental discoveries. There are tons of people who are exploiting nature for their own enrichment, and unfortunately, these people control the dialogue in the media and in the government. Imagine if all college students were as well educated in environmental challenges as they were in their respective fields. If every college student truly understood the interdependence of all living things, they could work off of facts and dispel this fear to create a future that everyone has a voice in. We hope what will be implemented at Drew University will be replicated as long as there are dedicated people to help bring it about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erica. That was great. And thank you so much to all of the panelists. And I'd like to open up the session to questions and answers now.
Lindsey, if I can ask a question.
Go ahead, Rezwan.
So my question is, this is amazing.
Hold on a minute.
stuff.
Somebody needs to, Rohit, can you mute yourself? Let me see, I could try muting you. Okay.
And thank you for letting me be here and just hear all this. Just my mind is blown. Okay, so what is the pathway to get from, we've got like 8 billion, like 7 billion screaming people who are fixated on one paradigm, and then to jump over to the rights of nature? Like, what is the pathway? Is there a strategy?
Okay. So we need to do it quickly because people need to understand that our consumption is really driving all these species going extinct, that we're turning like living earth and beings into commodities. And one way that I thought of doing it is if we could start a college movement about this, just like, when people started a movement for rights for the LGBTQ plus community, it seemed a long way away, etc. But when colleges started really promoting it on their campuses, that's when it really gained a lot of momentum. And so I'm hoping the same thing could be done for this. And actually, there is a constitutional amendment on the ballot in New York State for this November for a right to clean water. It's called the Green Amendment. And people are trying to get it on the ballot for New Jersey also. But on New York, it's definitely on the ballot. And it's not exactly the rights of nature, but it's related to the rights of nature. It's the right to nature and clean water and clean air, things like that. I actually am not an expert in it at this point. But right now we hear a lot about climate change, but we're not hearing about that the top thing that we need to do right now is to preserve nature for the future. That's how people in the future are going to survive.
Could I just say something quickly in response to that?
Sure.
So I think the short answer is there is no single one pathway. There's a lot of different pathways. So again, just to echo what Lindsey said, the ultimate goal is the paradigm change. So the rights of nature laws are just a tool. They are not themselves the goal. And they're by no means the only way to go about trying to instigate this paradigm change. It's just one that it's just one of many different tools. And so what I find encouraging is that there are actually lots of different people simultaneously going down lots of different pathways to try to push or nudge this normative or paradigm change. So it's everything from the youth. So it's everything from like the movement towards ecocide to try to change criminal codes to recognize the responsibility to protect nature, these rights of nature laws. You've got the climate litigation that's happening in the courts, and then other sorts of environmental justice related activities. And so it's sort of an all hands on deck, many pathways, because again, we're talking about systems change. And so that systems change isn't likely to happen in a top down fashion. It's likely to happen through many different local activities that sort of aggregate to start having systems change out. I guess that's sort of the short answer I would give.
Thank you, Craig. Any questions? Any additional?
Lindsey,
Yes.
Joel,
Hi.
how are you? I just want to add, I think it's really important that we take a lot of what we said today, what people are saying out there, and really apply it. Because, I mean, most of the politicians and other people there, everyone's going to agree. At the end of the day, they're going to go their path and we're going to go the others. So we've been working, and with just a few times, there's discussions with you, of making the students also monitors, to analyze what part of the ecosystem that's near them, and also learning how to protect it. So we should definitely, pursue actual a toolkit for people to protect. And in New York, we're working on it's not just a tree monitor, but a tree guardian ordinance that people actually get assigned trees in their area, and they become the protectors, and they know who to call, and who people in their neighborhood know who to call to protect those trees. So I'd like to continue working with you on that, and having all those students out there even become guardians of their own campuses.
And you know what, Joel, that would be a perfect innovation point to add to ASHE STARS. Like if colleges did that, if they implemented that program, they would put that in their STARS report as something innovative that they did. And it's a great idea. And citizen scientists who are studying chemistry can help with air monitoring or water monitoring, et cetera.
Right.
So I think it's a great idea. And I think that what Erica's doing also, it's like an easy way for environmental clubs to take a stand for nature and to get involved in the administration. I always like to tell students that this is a time in your life when it's probably the most powerful you'll ever be, because the administrations really do care what you think. Erica put together a petition. She got people to sign it. She's been meeting with the president of Drew. At John Jay College, environmental justice really became a priority, because when it was left off the strategic plan, the students created a petition and they started attending meetings, and then it became a major priority in the strategic plan. There's really a lot that could be done at campuses and elsewhere. And I just want to mention that this STARS program is based on a program for businesses called the Global Reporting Initiative. So businesses can also get involved. And so how are we doing with time? Any more questions?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Okay. Someone says that she has a question for one of the speakers who would like to jump in for this. And I and a few of my coworkers are starting Accessibility and Social Justice Committee at our organization. We are an environmental education organization. And so my question is, what else would you like us to know so that we can make us a more accessible community towards Indigenous people?
Is Chief Mann, are you available to answer? He must have gotten disconnected.
No, I'm here. Can you,
okay.
I'm sorry, can you repeat it, please?
Oh,
She
okay.
wanted to know how they could make their programs more accessible for Indigenous people and how to get to have it be more involve Indigenous people. And
So we had, Michaeline and my wife and I actually created a nonprofit called Ramapough Culture and Land Foundation. Ramapough Culture and Land Foundation, we created it because of the environmental issues that we face, but also, for restorative cultural things of that nature. So Ramapough Culture and Land Foundation is Ramapough, RAMAPOUGH.org. And, you can follow along on there. You could email us. It's something that, we're building a very large coalition of conservancies, like the Nature Conservancy, Ridge and Valley Conservancy, Ramapough Conservancy, and what we're doing is we're taking that back. And as you heard Auntie Casey say earlier, we need to enact laws that that have teeth and that others have to follow. And Craig, I really appreciated your slides, and I'm hoping that a few of those are available. I'm also a member of a coalition for New Jersey Thrives. And later today, we're actually going to be speaking with, actually at 3, some staffers for Assemblyman, Congressman Pallone's office. So, rights of nature is something that really needs to be put forth. It needs to be a part of, all of these bills that are going to be passed, and for the, the infrastructure and environmental justice and all those things. So we here in New Jersey will actually have a leg up on trying to, get those things to the forefront, because it shouldn't be, Craig, you said it very well when you said, that we humans are a part of nature. And there's a disconnect, and that disconnect is colonialism, which causes that. And Auntie Casey was correct as well, that there is, all the universities are beginning to turn their focus, and all the big funders are beginning to turn their focus to Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous ways. Just like sustainability. Who knows more about sustainability than Indigenous people, right? Because we were doing that here, before contact. We lived in balance, and that really truthfully is the issue that is faced by society, as a whole, on a grander scale, is that society is out of balance. And if the non-Indigenous people of the world truthfully engage and listen to Indigenous people, to make that a part of the curriculum, to make that a part of the laws, we can then truthfully, make a great impact and create great strides in, putting our world back into balance, where we humans will also be included in those millions of species that get to survive here on our Mother Earth.
thank you so much. That was actually a great summary for this seminar. And And I'm going to try to do everything to help make your words come true. And I hope everyone else on the call will also. And so I want to thank everyone for attending today, and especially thank the speakers and John Jay College and Rohit and Janet for helping. So thank you so much, everybody. I hope you have a great Earth Week, and that all of you are safe and well with respect to COVID. And let's hope for a better year next year. Thank you so much. Take care.